So Shawnee is a social media and marketing consultant, creative director, and event producer currently residing in Dallas, Texas. She graduated from El Centro College with a degree in fashion marketing and a Bachelor of Applied Arts and Sciences with concentrations in hospitality management and communication and technology from the University of North Texas in Dallas. She is the founder and creative director of Shawnee Leonard Consulting, a consulting and creative studio helping brands with project management, content marketing, and strategic planning. As a freelancer who has organically taken on the role of helping other freelancers, it eventually led to her starting the 1099, a Dallas-based collective catered towards helping freelancers thrive in their personal and professional life by providing them access to resources, continuing education, networking opportunities, and more. Lastly, Shawnee has been an Asana ambassador since March 2020 and has hosted events and workshops related to how to use Asana in your personal and professional life, project management, productivity tips and tricks, and the future of work. She has taken her event hosting capabilities to the next level and was recently appointed to be Asana's city event leader for the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Outside of all of this, she has had other numerous leadership roles ranging from being the beauty director for Method 7 magazine, serving on the Student Event Planners Association's board of directors, marketing co-chair for Dallas Startup Week, and was a member for ILEA Dallas's Communications and Marketing Committee. In her free time, you can find Shawnee at her favorite happy hour with a Moscow Mule and Prosecco in hand, hanging out with her 3 fur babies, Blue, Melissa, and Morgan, exploring downtown Dallas and buying one too many beauty products at Nordstrom and Sephora. Alrighty, the floor is yours, Shawnee. I'm excited to hear what you have today for our project management lunch and learn.
Okay, can y'all see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for my introduction. Today I'll be doing pretty much a bite-sized presentation of what I did at Flint Conference over general project management. Like Wasami has said, I am an Asana ambassador, so everything project management, it's a love language. I have a background in event planning as well, so project management just comes second nature to me. So it's no surprise that I love project management. So today's agenda, we're going to go over just a general overview on like project management, typical pain points that people experience, whether working solo or working in a team, ways to choose the best project management tool for you or your team, depending on if you work by yourself or you work with other people. And then a few of my project management best practices. And then afterwards, we can do a Q&A if y'all have any questions for me. So here's another, pretty much my introduction. I did go to El Centro and I did go to UNT, so go Mean Green. Actually graduated from like the UNT Dallas campus, but I still claim didn't because that's where I initially started at. I consider myself like a multi-faceted creative. I do a lot of things, and as I've gotten older, my interest just expanded even more. So I'm very grateful for that. That's particularly why project management is important to me, because I have so many passion projects and everything else that I work on, and that project management is the best way for me to keep track of everything that I'm doing. Okay, let me pull up my notes. So let's start with an overview. So Asana puts out this annual anatomy of work report. So they survey hundreds of workers to figure out like how they work, their work habits, why they work the way they do, et cetera, et cetera. And some key takeaways from this, it was like a 20-page report. So 61% is the amount of time the average worker devotes to work about work. So that ranges from trying to figure out who's working on what task, when does it need to be completed by, what documents or other collateral do I need to complete this task. Pretty much that's like back and forth information that we typically discuss through email, and email can be a time suck sometimes, especially if you let it become one. So less than 40% of workers spend time on, their actual current work because, as I mentioned, everybody's trying to figure out who's doing what by when, and stuff kind of falls through the cracks sometimes. And then 27%, that's the amount of time dedicated to the skill craft that employees have been trained and hired to do. And I feel like this is typically an issue in the workplace, working in person. Most of that 8-hour workday is typically dedicated to more people figuring out what to do than actually like getting their tasks done. So that obviously leads to like inefficiencies. And then only 13% of the time is dedicated to strategic planning and forward-looking analysis. So based on my interpretation of that information, most companies and organizations aren't really doing big picture planning like they're supposed to be partaking in. So with these numbers, pretty much Asana's main goal in any project management software that you use, we're trying to decrease these percentages so that we can be more efficient, whether you're working in office, hybrid, remote, or if you're working like in person. So we're going to go over like 3 different types of pain points that people typically experience while working either solo or in a team. So pain point 1, work is scattered across many tools. So the situation for this is you're having like 3 different conversations about different projects in whatever platforms you use, Slack, Microsoft Teams, and email. So what that leads to is it's very hard to keep track of everything when you have different conversations going on in different places. It's easy to lose track of things. Like I know personally, working in Slack and helping out with the startup conference that was mentioned earlier that I was the marketing co-chair of. Slack can get noisy when you got like 20, 30, 40 people in different channels and y'all all are trying to work on different things. Like Slack can get noisy and stuff can easily get lost. So the solution to solve this pain point is to streamline and centralize your work. Put it all in one place so that people know exactly where they need to find what they need to work on, any tasks that are assigned to them, all that good stuff, so that everybody is not going all over the place, spending time looking for conversations that happen in email or conversations that happen in Slack, especially documents as well. So second pain point, work is falling through the cracks, as I mentioned, because work is scattered across many tools. It's hard to keep track of what you work on. This leads to deadlines being missed, work not being completed, and then people get upset because you're supposed to be working on this, but nobody really told you you're supposed to be working on it, and then it causes drama. So the solution for that is using a project management tool to increase accountability around who's doing what by when, and you have more clarity on who's working on what. So, for example, if I'm working on like a social media strategy, people know that I'm working on it so that another person is not working on it and they're doing duplicate work. And that's time wasted. They could have been doing something else if they would have known like, hey, Shawnee's already working on this. I don't need to do this. What else can I work on? And then the last pain point, teams lack an effective, efficient way to report on project progress. So for example, I do event planning. I plan a lot of community events like for Asana, do a lot of workshops with them. But for like big picture planning, like Flint conference, for example, there's a lot of action items that goes into putting together a conference. So you need a more efficient way to keep everybody in a loop on event progress besides using email and Slack. So I know with Asana in particular, you can do project progress via status updates. And I'm pretty sure they have a feature where you can set a reminder to send status updates every Friday. Like Asana will send you a notification. I'm not sure how other project management tools do it, but I'm just speaking from Asana. But it's easier to do updates in whatever project management tool you're using compared to just doing it through email. So your project management tool is supposed to be the link between content and communications. So on the left-hand side, file creation and management. So that's like your Google Drive. Everybody loves Google Drive. There's OneDrive, there's Dropbox, there's other cloud platforms where you store all of your documents, your files, you have that. And then on the other side, you have your messaging and communications for like one-off stuff that's not related to anything that you're working on. So that's your Slack, Microsoft Teams. So your project management tool is the connector between these two assets that you're using so that you can work efficiently. Like Asana, Notion, FreeCamp, all of those project management tools, they're used so that they help you work better. Hopefully that makes sense. Me personally, I try to avoid using email all the time as a primary form of communication. If your project management tool has a feature where you can leave comments or send group messages or individual messages, I prefer to just do all of that in the platform compared to doing it in email. My personal preference is to use email to contact like vendors or anybody else. I really don't favor too much like using email as a primary source of communication with like coworkers or other freelancers, whatever the case may be. I try to move everything to Asana so that communications is also in one place, and that frees up my inbox, and then I spend less time replying back to emails, responding back, and checking my email. Because there used to be a point where I would spend like 2 hours just like replying back to emails, and then just to get like 20, 30 more in the next like couple minutes. So I was like, you know what, let's just do all our communication in Asana. So here are a few ways you can choose your best project management tool. So when you're looking for whatever platform you want to use, you should be able to do 3 main types of activities: creation, collaboration, and communication. So creation of like teams, projects, tasks, all that good stuff. Collaboration, like for example, if I'm planning like a conference and I'm working with like a design team to send them design requests for marketing collateral, signage, I should be able to effectively collaborate with another team so that we can work on action items together. Or if I need something, I just put in a request and they can start working on it. And then of course, communication. So I prefer to do this, anything related to whatever I'm working on, I prefer to communicate about it within project management tool, as I mentioned earlier. That revolves around comments, messages, status updates, all that good stuff. So you should be able to do those 3 basic things with a project management tool. If you can't, then it's probably not a tool you want to use. The next thing I recommend is to create a list of 5 like project management tools and write down a list of like all the features that you like. Just type up project management software tool on Google. I'm pretty sure Asana and Notion are probably gonna be the first ones to come up because they're very popular platforms, along with Airtable. That's probably the only 3 I can think of on top of my head, and then Basecamp. And just write down like features that y'all like about these platforms. And then going back to outlining your pain points, that's where you can determine if a certain feature is going to help solve that specific pain point. As I mentioned before, if your work is all over the place, is this project management tool going to help you streamline and centralize work? The default answer to that should be yes. So that's the best way for you to choose it. Then again, another way is you will know which tool is going to be the right one for you. You will know just by playing around with it. That's why I'm stuck on Asana. Like I knew it was the right fit for me. Notion, I love Notion, but Notion's not for me. I use Notion for like writing SOP, standard operating procedures. And that's something I'm going to mention like later on. I feel like, I don't know if I mentioned this at Flint conference, but I feel like Notion is best for people who like bullet journaling. I don't know, it reminds me of that because you can create your own dashboards and everything else on Notion. You can create them yourself. Very similar to like if you do bullet journaling and you create your own like layouts. Notion is very similar. And you can also use coding to make it look more aesthetically pleasing, all that good stuff. Like you can look up Notion templates that people create themselves and they sell them. And you can use those. So it really depends. You will know. That's just go by your gut feeling. If it's a platform you feel, okay, I like this, I've been playing around with it, then it's most likely the right platform for you. Next thing is project management best practices. So I got in the routine of checking Asana before starting my day. I did it on a consistent basis to now it's the first thing I check before I even check my email so that I can determine like what I'm working on today. And I typically use Asana by myself. So I use it to keep track of like all the action items I need to work on for like my Asana workshops, for the 1099, whatever it is I'm working on. Like they said, it takes like 21 days to form a habit. You start using it on a more consistent basis, it's just going to become second nature for you to log in and check in on whatever it is you're working on. The next thing is to create project task templates. Since I do events and since I do very similar events, that's time consuming to try to create like an event template from scratch. So what I do is just, I have templates that I created. Asana and Notion in particular have their own pre-made templates that you can just revamp and customize to your convenience. I use those for when I'm planning Asana workshops, doing Clubhouse rooms, Twitter spaces, and then in-person Asana events, and then online. So I have a different template for whatever format whatever event format that I'm doing. That way I'm not having to recreate it all over again. Like I already have a template set. All I gotta do is duplicate it and it's done. And then task templates, I typically use those, create those for my content calendar. So I have a certain workflow for each piece of content I create, whether that's a blog post, Instagram post, Pinterest. I have a workflow for each piece of content that I create. So instead of me just having to create it from scratch, I just created those templates in Asana. And when I'm planning out my content calendar for the upcoming week, I just copy those tasks, and then I move them to like their designated column. So my content calendar is pretty much set up like Kanban style, so the board view, and I just move them into their designated place. And that saves up so much time. So I don't have to create stuff from scratch. And then on that note, set up recurring tasks. I attempt to do batch content creation. So Mondays are typically the days that I plan out my content. So if I'm writing blog posts, I have a day set for that. Instead of me having to put it in every time, I just set it as a recurring task, so it shows up on my task list every Monday. Like, Shawnee, you're supposed to write blog posts. On Tuesday, you're supposed to write social media copy. On Wednesdays, you're supposed to design graphics. Like, I have those set up as recurring tasks because it's something that I do on a weekly basis. And it's not typically something I would write in my planner because it's very repetitive. I just put it in Asana. The next thing is to start creating standard operating procedures, and you can house them in your PM, in your project management tool. So you can create like a resource project that nobody can edit, but that's where you house like your SOPs. So in case you don't know what that is, it's a standard operating procedure. It's basically an outline of how you do a certain task. So since I'm a marketing person, I would write an SOP on like how I write blog posts, or how I, publish content on Instagram, or how to write a press release, so that when I get to the point where I'm eventually outsourcing to freelancers, I just send them those SOPs with like a screen recording on like how I do everything, so that they'll have the information as a reference. And I think it's important for companies, anybody, whether you work by yourself or you work in a team, like, start creating SOPs, especially when you're working with somebody and then they get like layoffs are happening right now, or they just don't work with the company no more, but you don't know how they do certain tasks because nobody documented it. So now from that, start creating them so that it's easier to like onboard and train people. Just block out time throughout the week to start writing them. It takes a lot. It's a lot writing that. So just try to do it on a weekly basis. Like, I try to do it on a weekly. I'm starting to write SOPs like on a weekly basis to go with like my operations manual that I'm creating right now. So the next thing, use tags to organize your work and your tasks. I typically use tags to color code my content calendar. So each piece of content is a different color. So Facebook post is a different color. Blog post is different color. Instagram posts different color. So when I look at my content calendar from a calendar view, when I switch views on Asana, everything's like color coded and aesthetically pleasing. Like, that's just the way I'm organized. I'm a very visual person and I like color. And you can also use tags. I know I use it for like my social calendar, when I keep up with like events, other events that I want to go to. And I kind of categorize them by the type of event, whether it's a charity event, a social event, concert, whatever the case may be. So I know what type of event is in my calendar. And then the last thing is to utilize integrations for more efficient workflows, processes, etc. So most project management tools have integrations. So Asana, they have so many, I can't even list them all for you because I don't even remember most of them. I'm pretty sure they have like over 100 integrations. So if you're a person like me who like is very attached to Google Calendar, like your life literally revolves around it, if you want like your Asana tasks to show up on your Google Calendar, there's an integration for that. If you want Asana and Slack, if you want to use Asana and Slack together, there's an integration for it. There's even an integration for Asana and Notion to work together. Those are two different project management tools, but they got an integration and you can use them. You can use them together because it's the best of both worlds. Especially for me, because I do like Asana and I do like Notion. Don't tell Asana that though. And let's see. Trying to think of other integrations. If you're like a UX, UI designer, I believe they use Figma. I think that's what it's called. They got an integration for that. If you're somebody like me who's graphically design challenged, so you don't really know how to use Photoshop to create graphics, they got a Canva integration. If you use Zapier for like automations, like whatever tool that you already use, I'm pretty sure Asana, Notion, Airtable, they probably have an integration for it already. And it makes things so much easier when you're working on stuff. And that's it. Does anybody have questions for me?
Sweet. Thank you, Shawnee. That was awesome. I'm going to let people ask questions if they have them, of course, but I do have kind of a leading question, I guess, to kick off the Q&A. So you talked about how folks in small teams and for business can use project management tools. Do you have any experience using project management tools for, let's say, personal life or scheduling the family? I guess that's a little formal. Or like for a passion project, like, let's say my goal by the end of the year is to, I don't know, have published X amount of blogs on my personal blog. Like, do you have experience or know of other people who have used Asana or any other project management tool to kind of get their passion projects off the ground?
Oh, I use Asana for personal life. I don't just use it for work. I figured it just makes sense for me to like stick to a platform that I'm already using. I think I mentioned at Flint conference, like I use Asana for right now. I'm trying to plan out like a capsule wardrobe. You know, the pandemic, I haven't been buying clothes like I usually do. So I'm trying to like build up my wardrobe again. So I'm using Asana to kind of plan that out. I've
Wow,
also
cool.
used Asana to keep track of like social events I want to go to. I use Asana. I was playing around with it maybe like a couple weeks ago. I was playing around with it to see how I could use it for like meal planning, planning out workouts, planning out, let's see, what else? Keep track of like, you can use it to keep track of like jobs you've applied to. You can use it for like planning trips. I think I remember seeing somebody on Asana in particular. They used it for like family planning, like planning their like first kid. They use Asana for that. So whatever you need to keep track of, even in your personal life, you can use like Asana in Notion for it. I know like Notion is very popular with college students. Like honestly, if Notion was around when I was like going to UNT and El Centro, I most likely probably would have used Notion. Like it's very popular with college students as well to keep track of assignments, projects, whatever it is that you're working on. Like I wish it was around many years ago because I would have definitely used it. So whatever it is you want to plan and you keep track of your personal life, you can definitely use like Asana or Notion for Airtable, Basecamp, all of them.
Sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else have any questions? Christina, Julie, Federico, Renee? I have plenty, but I also want other attendees to be able to pose those questions if they have them. So no need to be shy. You can also drop them in the chat if you aren't in a place to speak out loud. Okay. Oh, thanks, Christina. She said, no, this was good. Awesome. So I will pose another question. I'm kind of wondering about those integrations that you mentioned. Would you be able to kind of screen share and show how in Asana we could like connect, let's say, we use Google Calendar, Canva, and Zapier here at Stoke. And Zapier is really the only tool that I've used for integrations between the CRM that we use, Nutshell, the co-working app that we use, Proximity, and Google Calendar or Google Drive, really. So I'm just curious to kind of get a crash, maybe like 5 to 10 minute course from you. So we're on the Asana page.
Yeah, these are all of their integrations. Like I said, there's so many of them, I can't even name them all. There is like a Google, I know from the top of my head, there is a Google Drive integration. So let's say you're like in a task. There's like a paperclip. There's like a paperclip button that where you can attach files to a task. You can attach stuff directly from Google Drive, Dropbox, whatever cloud software you're using. You can attach it directly instead of just having to copy and paste like the link. So you can do it that way. For the data analytics people, that's your integration. Google Calendar, as I mentioned, Gmail. I think the Gmail one is for if somebody gives you action items in an email, you can just integrate it into Asana. I think that's how that works.
Cool.
And like I mentioned, Zapier, another one for the data analytics people. There's like so many.
I think you mentioned Slack as one of the integrations with Asana. What could you give some examples of like how one might use that integration?
Which one?
Slack.
I think Slack, I'm from the top of my head, I think it's if somebody gives you tasks in Slack, you can integrate it and have it show up in Asana. I believe that's how that one works. But let me look it up just to double check and make sure.
I think I saw, there it is. Yeah, so our team uses Slack. We're a small team of 4. Julie's part of our team now, yay. So I ask mainly because we, during team meetings, I'll kind of like type up action item notes in Slack, but I'll have to kind of scroll back up through the message to be like, oh, these are the 3 things we said we would do for next week. So I think my brain right now is going toward, if we were to use Asana, like how would we bring everything together, and would it be like a useful tool on top of what we're doing because we're already such a small team, or is what we're doing working? So that's where I'm at.
But yeah, here's just a general overview on how you can use like Slack and Asana. So whatever conversations you're having with your team at Stoke, you can turn those into tasks and projects in Asana. And then all you gotta do is just assign due dates to whoever you assigned a task to and all that good stuff. So these are the things that you can do with like an Asana and Slack integration. So you can create a task, assign it to yourself or a teammate, add it to an existing project. You can comment on a task, you can receive updates. So I'm gonna assume any updates from Asana, I feel like it's probably gonna automatically send them to Slack, like as far as like updates. So very similar to like Google Drive and Slack being integrated. Like if you add a document, like there's a bot that tells you like so-and-so uploaded a document to this channel. I feel like that's how it works. Like you'll get like a notification. You all know that knock brush notification that everybody's like familiar with. You'll like hear it when you have like even Asana and Google Drive and Slack like all integrated together. So that's how that works. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them to go through. I can probably do a whole workshop just on these integrations so people can figure out which one works for them. And like I said, because Asana does not discriminate, you can even use Asana with like other project management tools. Like I think I remember mentioning at Flint conference, Jira, I think that's the name of it. Like they have an integration for it. So whatever you currently use, they probably have an integration for it.
That is so awesome. I especially like that through Asana, through Asana and Slack's integration, you'll receive a notification about what someone has done. Because accountability for me is like a huge thing, but also like I don't want to just like drop in the Stoke team chat every time I do something. So if a bot does it, then I feel a little less like guilty about it.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Awesome. Okay. Any questions, y'all? I'm going back to like my adjunct instructor days when I would, ooh, goody, we have a question from Christina. But back in the day, I taught and I'd just wait for like a minute and be like, anyone? But we do have a question from Christina. She asked, what about managing multiple clients? So for clarification, the way that I'm reading this is if you have multiple clients and teams, how would you use Asana? Is that correct, Christina? Great, she said yes. Yeah.
Okay, so my answer to that is it really depends on what you want to do. If you have a workspace just dedicated for like your clients, you can add them to it. I think with Asana, like how it's set up, like if you set it up as an organization, you can add people who have like the same like email domain as you, and then people who don't have it, they're automatically considered a guest. So they only have access to projects that you add them to, like they can't see anything else in your workspace. So my recommendation, if you're working with a client, if I'm doing like, if I'm partnering, I'll say this from my perspective. If I'm doing social media work, if I'm doing email marketing for somebody, and then I'm also partnering with one of my graphic designer friends because they're also helping this client create a website, what I'll do is based on whatever deliverables or scope of work that I'm doing with this client, I'll just create a team, name that team, the company name that I'm working with. If I'm doing social media management for them, I'll create like a content calendar project. If my friend is doing their website, I'll create like a website project for them where we just work through whatever pages, copy, graphics, images, all that stuff will be worked in website. If I'm doing an event, that also goes under that specific team. So whatever it is you're specifically working on, you could just house all of those projects under a team, and you could do the same thing for like all of your clients. I prefer to, my personal preference, I prefer for clients to have their own like Asana set up so that they're more empowered to like use it when we're no longer like working together, and they keep track of their stuff rather than it all being housed on like my workspace. Like they have their own where they can keep track of everything even when I'm no longer working with them. So that's the best way to use Asana for multiple clients. You can either create another workspace that's just for your clients, like all you work on is client stuff. If you don't want them integrated in your own workspace where you manage like your day-to-day business stuff, like you can also do that. I mean, you can create as many workspaces as you want. I'm pretty sure I'm part of like 8 of them right now. So
Awesome. Thank you. Does that answer your question? Okay, great. Christina said, thank you. Awesome. In the chat. So I'm gonna kind of repeat back to you like my understanding of what you just said. So in Asana, you can have one big workspace, and that's just like Shawnee's workspace. And then you can have projects underneath, and you can give different people access to those projects, correct?
Yeah. So here's the difference. Like a general Asana workspace, you cannot create teams. All you can create is projects. For somebody like me that plans like a lot of events, it can like the sidebar can get cluttered easily. So I ended up converting my Asana workspace to an organization. So it's just like my domain, like Shawnee Leonard. That's the name of my workspace. And from there, like I started creating teams to kind of get everything, keep everything organized. So like all of my Asana together, Dallas stuff that I work on, that's under one team. Then like my consulting stuff, the day-to-day stuff that I work on, that's under one team. So my content calendar, all that good stuff, that's under one team. And then I have like an HQ team. That's where I house like my SOPs. Well, I was gonna house my SOPs, never mind. I created a team for SOPs, and depending on, and they're broken up into categories. Like that's what I'm working on now. But like my HQ board, that's more for like me doing strategic planning. So like my 5-year plan that I break down into an annual plan that I also break down quarterly. So I do all of that under like my HQ team. And then I'm trying to figure out what else I've created teams for. I feel like there's so many more, but it's just easier to keep track when you're creating like a lot of projects. Switch to an organization. It just makes things easier. It's so much easier to organize stuff under teams. I think that's one reason why I don't use Notion, because Notion doesn't let you do that. It's just pages, and that can also get cluttered. So that's one reason why I don't really use Notion that often. They may have added a feature where you can create teams, and then all of your projects and your pages, you can put them under designated teams. But as of right now, I don't know if they have that yet. So if you're creating a lot of projects, it can get cluttered very easily.
Got it. Okay, cool. I'm imagining Slack and how I use different Slack workspaces for different projects, or sorry, different organizations. And it's like, they make it really easy to switch back and forth between workspaces. And I also like that Asana and Slack use similar language in that regard. So cool. Thank you. Alrighty, any other questions, y'all? I'm looking at the chat. How can folks find you, Shawnee? Email, social media, what's your preference?
Well, hold on. Let me pull that up again.
Sure.
So this is where y'all can find me. This is my temporary email I'm using right now because I've been having issues with my other one. So that's my email you can contact me at right now, and I will try my best to respond back to you like ASAP. And then my website, which I still don't have up. Like I said, I had a landing page still up. I was at Flint conference, still working on that. So I just have a landing page up for right now. And then my Instagram, my LinkedIn, company LinkedIn, and then like personal one, if y'all would like to connect with me. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well. So feel free to connect with me through there. And then I typically post any Asana workshops that I'm doing. I typically post them on like my social media and my LinkedIn as well. So if you're interested in learning more about Asana, you can go there and learn more about like upcoming events that I'm hosting as well. I don't have them up yet. The ones for that I'm planning to host in July. I had to like rearrange everything, push everything back to July. So I don't have those events up yet, but I should have some of them up, I will say by Monday. So if you go to like, and I will type it in the chat. go there, ShawneeLeonard.com/Asana Together Dallas. I got a little landing page for all of my upcoming events. That's honestly the best way to also keep track of upcoming events, because I will typically post them on my website first before I send out like a newsletter or put them on social media as well. And I'll make a note of, I'll say this now, like I'm doing an anatomy of work, like fireside chat series. So what I talked about earlier in the presentation. So if you're interested in that, I'm doing a fireside chat series on that. I believe July 26th and 27th. So if you're interested, I will post about that. And then also I need speakers. So if you like talking about future of work or hybrid and remote work tips, like reach out to me so we can get connected. And then I also do like Clubhouse rooms, started doing those, and I started doing Twitter spaces. So if y'all are interested, like let me know.
Sweet. You do so much. That's awesome. I'm definitely interested in the anatomy of work event, and I'll be in Dallas. Ooh, yes, Twitter spaces from Christina. Yeah, so definitely get in touch. Screenshot this. I will be writing a recap blog of what you talked about today, Shawnee. So I'll tag you in that on your socials. And yeah, if there are no more questions, I'm gonna use that buzzy term that I love and hate at the same time. I'll give you back 10 minutes of your day because we're at 12:50. But again, thank you so much, Shawnee. This was awesome. I personally got a lot out of it. So I'm gonna spend like maybe the next hour figuring out what this could look like for Stoke. And we've got a thanks so much from Christina in the chat. But yeah, thanks for coming, y'all. Have a remarkable day and a good long weekend.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.